So how do I A, provide value, and B, as quickly as possible? Um, and when I thought of both of those, I think those became driving factors to be like, okay, just like full head on, just go in and try to learn as much as I can and just start helping out.
I'm hearing a lot of similarities between wanting to learn everything and being self-taught programmer, being a Boy Scout. That's me too, across the board. But how do you determine whether you pick up the skill yourself and provide that value to the team versus looking for someone else to fill that role? Because you can't do everything as much as we might try to. And so when do you determine this is something I do? When do you determine I need some help?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I think there are a lot of maybe my professors in the past that have very much disagreed with my standpoint on this. And I mean, everybody to each their own. But I think for me at least, I'm very much I'm very much sort of a how can I get in the weeds and be a part of the actual building the product itself. I think I'm a very big proponent of the fact that that as a startup at least, you can't really market something you don't know if it's built or not. And so it's very tough to be like, hey, come use this product that I've never even built or understood how it works or anything. Um, and so I think so I try my best to say, okay, there's a handful of stuff, at least the core functionality, maybe the app itself, the front end, connecting it to a database. That's the core functionality. That's kind of what I learned. And then I guess like additions to it, like maybe AI models or NLP, or something like that. And training that data would be something that I think would be kind of given to other people in the team.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Founders Ascent. In today's episode, we're joined by Rahul. Rahul, just give us a quick introduction about yourself as a founder.
Yeah, sure. So I basically started my startup journey around sophomore, junior year of college in undergrad. It was kind of just a firsthand look into just how to build stuff and sell stuff. So I background story, I basically came as a pre-med student into college. So first 2 years had nothing to do with startups. It was all textbook and just head down grinding, trying to get to med school. And then as the pandemic hit, I basically made a pretty drastic shift from medicine to entrepreneurship. Um, now I think the one of the biggest things I think I kind of took away from this is just that there's so many ways to fail and so many ways to learn from those failures, and that every new venture you create is just another way to learn from something that maybe you didn't know about, and get one step closer to success. And so right now I'm on my fourth venture, um, and the three have been I guess failures, but successes in my eyes to some degree. And so right now I'm looking to streamline and optimize the in-restaurant dining experience, so that it creates a better experience for everyone.
Awesome. So that transition from med school bound to being an entrepreneur, what inspired you to start a business and get into the space?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the biggest thing was honestly the timing of the pandemic. I think basically all throughout college, and especially in the early years, and then all throughout high school. I kind of knew what I wanted to do, and I didn't really have time or wanted to go explore outside of that. And so pre-med was the only thing that I lived and breathed. Um, and so I think the pandemic gave me an opportunity to spend time and have a lot of this excess time. And so when I had this excess time, I could start using it to learn more about what else I enjoy. And that's pretty much how it started. So I basically started really enjoying building things. I think more than a business person, I think I really like the idea of building things that can help people rather than the selling aspect, which is I guess not the right way to think maybe for an entrepreneur, but that's just kind of how I thought. And so then naturally I thought that if I kind of are drawn to building stuff, maybe I need the expertise in the business realm. So that's kind of why I shifted over to the business world.
And with like value provided, is there a way you'd say to measure that value that you're providing? And you were talking about helping people. Is there the best way to measure that?
Um, I would say that like I kind of look at like I mean I kind of like one of my friends said this. He was like, it's really just like kind of delta under the curve, so to speak. Because he said, you can make something that's like really impactful, and it could kind of or it could be like this grand scale idea and impact a very small amount of people, or it could be something very minute, like me. You could say something like photo editing, or enhancing something small, and it could impact a lot of people. And so I think both of those would still have a great impact of area in the curve if you think about it. Um, and I think that's just kind of how I think, where it's not like, everything has to sort of be world changing and all of that, but I think it definitely has to try and help in some degree.
Yeah, and so when thinking about that, what's sort of your background and skill set that you're using to provide value? Are you, I don't get the sense that you're a programmer, or are you? Well, what is it that you use to help your company expand and grow? Is it finances? Is it analysis? Is it just leadership skills? What do you think is the big skills you're using to help your business?
Yeah, I think, yeah, and maybe I don't come off as a programmer. I think
You
maybe that's
are
the case. But yeah, I mean, so I'm self-taught in
awesome.
front end and a little bit of back end dev. I think the biggest thing for me is that I've always tried to kind of, I guess, like take in and learn as much as I can. And so like I remember I first started with like it was just leadership skills. Like I'm an Eagle Scout, been doing Boy Scouting since like second grade all the way to 12th grade and got my Eagle rank. So like I know a little bit, just a tiny bit about leadership. So I think that that really solidified a sort of culture that people want to join, people want to be a part of. And then at that point I was like, okay, how can I just provide the most amount of value to my team? And I think when I thought about it through that standpoint, I was like, okay, well, right now there is no business aspect because we're just building the MVP. So how do I provide value through that? And I guess I got to learn how to code. So I don't think it was like coding. I think most people learn to code because they like generally coding. I would say I ended up coding out of a necessity rather than a likeness. But yeah.
What did that process look like? Right? Because I think I remember you telling me one day that you you had this idea, and I want to say it was for brevity, and you wanted to create it yourself, and so you started taking like an online course, and you taught yourself how to code in like pretty much a week. Is that true? Or am I misremembering this?
No, yeah, yeah, the synopsis is pretty accurate. So I think, yeah, it was like something like a week and a half or something. Now anybody listening to this, I probably wouldn't recommend this because it absolutely destroyed my home, like the mental health basically was gone that week and a half. And there was no like family time or like it was nothing. I think I had
Yeah.
like I'd have dinner at like 2 or 3 a.m. or something. It was like some
Uh,
ridiculous. So I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, there are a lot of things I did that I wouldn't recommend. So, but I think generally like that's kind of just how my mindset was, which was like, okay, this thing is in motion that I started, and now they need help. And so how do I A, provide value, and B, as quickly as possible? Um, and when I thought of both of those, I think those became driving factors to be like, okay, just like full head on, just go in and try to learn as much as I can and just start helping out.
I'm hearing a lot of similarities between wanting to learn everything and being self-taught programmer, being a Boy Scout. That's me too, across the board. But how do you determine whether you pick up the skill yourself and provide that value to the team versus looking for someone else to fill that role? Because you can't do everything as much as we might try to. And so when do you determine this is something I do? When do you determine I need some help?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I think that and I think there are a lot of maybe my professors in the past that have very much disagreed with my standpoint on this. And they, I mean, everybody to each their own. But I think for me at least, I'm very much a I'm very much sort of a how can I get in the weeds and be a part of the actual building the product itself. I think I'm a very big proponent of the fact that that as a startup at least, you can't really market something you don't know if it's built or not. And so it's very tough to be like, hey, come use this product that I've never even built or understood how it works or anything. Um, and so I think even if so I try my best to say, okay, there's a handful of stuff, at least the core functionality, maybe the app itself, the front end, connecting it to a database. That's the core functionality. That's kind of what I learned. And then I guess like additions to it, like maybe AI models or NLP or something like that. And training that data would be something that I think would be kind of given to other people in the team. Not to say that we're not going to have a front end, back end team and all that, but I think it's very important, at least in my eyes, for I guess the leader of the team, so to speak, to understand all aspects of the team itself.
And so you try to embody and specialize the product you're taking ownership of, and like the
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think one of the big things is that I think like when I'm trying to, I guess, pitch it to different customers and trying to get customer feedback, I think it's very difficult to, or I guess the information, if you think about it, is very difficult to go from, okay, I'm a sales rep to now I'm, let's say, the technical lead. And so I need to pass this information to that person. But the thing is, that person might not be understanding exactly how to solve the issue. And so now there's I guess another level of communication that's lost between two different people. When in theory you could have the sales rep that understands the basics of coding and can understand exactly what could be wrong and then convey that through code, almost like a PM. So I think that I think while I don't all while I don't stay up at night just like coding away and on everything and just like it's all mine, like leave me alone kind of thing. I think it's very important that I'm understanding of everything, so that way when I am going out and pitching and I'm going to talk to people, um, I can easily explain or I can take in information from what the customer is saying and easily translate that into what's wrong with the code.
Okay, I like that. I like that. Do you think, like, as the company gets larger, that the CEO is going to get further and further removed from the actual product and more like the the future of the company, more like umbrella things, or like as you scale your company, the company that you're currently working on, like Herbalo, I'm sure we'll talk about that more later, like what it is specifically. But as you get larger, do you think you're going to move further and further away from that kind of pipeline that you have right now, being closely tied with the product?
Um, I think I think it's one of the things that I always try my best to not happen. I think just naturally a team growing bigger, not being able to talk to everybody. Like obviously, when a team grows bigger, you're gonna have a manager that talks to whoever, and you're not gonna talk to every individual in the team. And then you're gonna have shareholders' needs and other aspects that you need to take care of. So I think there is this innate sense that naturally you start tending away from the project and more towards the operational business side. But I guess Anderson, to kind of go to your point, I think if I could hire somebody to handle the business ops and then just stay in the weeds and kind of build out the product, I think that's something that I would very much be interested in, even if that means like I think even if that means kind of the unorthodox CEO kind of thing. Um, I think I think it's always like fun to actually like work on the product itself and build innovative features rather than try and sit in meetings to organize how people operate. So
Talk to us about the startup that you're currently working on and like what is it?
yeah. So well, I mean, I could get into like why I created it, or if you guys want, just kind of like what it is.
Take the full story. We have
Okay.
time.
Yeah, sure. So I think so. I mean, so basically, I started. So this was I guess a problem I've been facing for quite some time. But I've never actually. I guess I never actually wanted to, and also knew how to solve the problem. Um, so essentially, the problem was that my brother is allergic to like all different types of nuts, and he has like severe allergies. So whenever we go to restaurants, it would always be a pain point of waiter communication. So, for example, he would have to constantly say that he's allergic to different things. They would give him a separate menu. We'd take a look at that menu. It'd take extra time. He basically almost feel like he was an oddball out, so to speak. So now a lot of times what would happen is that he'd either be very nervous and scared and wary of going to new restaurants, or he would just not go at all, and he'd just stick to his three or four that he goes to. And so the idea of restaurant exploration was almost unheard of for him. And now I talked to a lot of my other friends, especially going into college, and they have dietary restrictions, allergies, and they said the same thing, which is just like, the restaurant in dining experience is like a one size fits all experience, even though everybody is unique in their own way. Um, and so essentially what we're trying to do is how do we provide that unique experience for the in-dining experience for different diners? So the product itself is a chat app that you can have on your phone. It's somewhat similar to sort of something like ChatGPT, but it's using natural language processing to allow you to have a chat interface and place an order. So there really isn't so to speak, a menu that you can see, but it's more just a back and forth chat interface with an AI bot that knows everything about you, about the restaurant, knows all the restrictions you have, and provides you with a personalized, tailored experience that you've never really experienced before. Um, and so that's kind of the premise of what we're building. We do have a few restaurants are like partnered with and gonna start releasing out a beta soon. But really excited because I think it's something that for the masses is just a convenient factor, and then for the people that have allergies and restrictions is something that can provide them with a level of comfort and safety that they probably wouldn't have had it before.
And so you're using AI technology to sort of stand in for servers and waiters. There's a lot of talk about AI right now, like fear of it replacing humans, and seeing really starting to see what it's capable, sparks of generalized artificial intelligence. What do you think your software is in all of that? How do you feel about those concerns, and what do you think your product will sort of mean in that with that perspective?
Yeah, do you mean more in terms of like concern for waiters and their jobs and stuff?
Sure.
Or
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's a good question. Um, I think one thing is that what we're trying to do is not trying to is not trying to take away the waiter's job. In fact, we're trying to enhance their job. So a lot of restaurants we speak to mention how waiters are consistently bogged down. That the restaurant itself is short staffed. That means waiters aren't even coming. And the reason being that the waiter job is just getting harder and harder as consumer preferences are getting tighter and tighter. And on top of that, because of the pandemic, they're able to have experiences that are all remote and understand how, so to speak, luxurious it could be with other jobs you can get and still get paid for. And so, um, waiter retention has been one of the biggest issues in the restaurant so far. And so, what we're doing is really giving waiters sort of a magic wand that they can place and allow them to have more orders that they can take They can even through the app get, I mean, eventually in versions of the future have other monetary benefits that they have never had before. Um, all while not really not having to kind of have the tedious job of walking around a ton, and so on and so forth. And so I think while some people might think of it and see it as, oh, it's, a threat to waiters' jobs, I think when we talk to restaurant owners, they say it's very much something that enhances their experience and actually makes it feel like, waiters can work alongside tech.
What's that gonna look like? Like, is a waiter, like, let's say the average waiter has 5 tables that they're serving at once. With this AI, do you think the average waiter is gonna have like 10 tables and they may need to cut down on the amount of servers that, each restaurant is having on staff at a time? Like, what is that gonna look like?
Yeah, so I think that's exactly right. So I feel like it's going to be because of the fact that there's like less order taking process and everything, and it's very much just delivering the food to and from. I think it's like you said, I think it's very much that they have more time now and can take more tables, thus allowing them to get a better paycheck and everything. But I think it also, I think from a restaurant standpoint, restaurants aren't like, we have so many waiters, we don't know what to do with them. It's more like waiters, come to us, please, or begging you. And so I think for even the short-staffed restaurants, being able to use this technology allows even the existing waiters to serve the entire restaurant as opposed to just a section of the restaurant and section off three-fourths of it and say it's, we can't serve you because we just don't have waiters.
Yeah, I think that is, I used to work at a restaurant and I think that was a problem that happened a lot because we had so many tables, but what often happened is, I swear it's happened like every day. You get a waiter and they're like, you know what, I'm not showing up today. They called in sick and whatnot. And you have to close a section of the restaurant. And so maybe this could help with that. Like, even if you're short staffed one day, perhaps you could keep the all the tables in the restaurant open at once if you obviously have enough people in the kitchen working. But yeah, I guess that would make sense, right? Because you have a point when you say that the restaurants are having a difficult time employing enough servers, or at least having enough servers show up on the day because they won't show up for whatever happens in their life, sickness, that something comes up, vacation, whatever. I get it. But yeah, I think if that is true across all restaurants, I think it can be a very good thing in that regard. So
Yeah, true. And I think the other thing is that I think, when you look at the even the waiter landscape, a lot of them mention I guess I mean this isn't a shared thing, this is obviously some waiters and some not. So if you're a waiter out there listening, let me know if I'm wrong. But I think that there's generally this consensus of extremely difficult, demanding, taxing work with kind of a base minimum pay. And I think that, I feel like that's just, you know, like as a society, we can do better. Um, and so I think that, what we're projecting in terms of features, I'd say a year or 2 years from now, that are still stealth mode features right now, are going to heavily be in terms of monetization, specifically from kind of directly going from the diner to the waiter. And so a lot of the features that we're implementing in the future is going to be specifically designed for how do we create the best waiter experience.
I'm definitely thinking about this. I'm definitely getting super excited because I can see a whole ton of benefits for this now. Like language barriers, like you can have the chatbot be in pretty much any language. Audio features where you can just talk to it and order like you would
Mhm.
normally. Even stuff like I have a ton of siblings, and so sometimes my siblings take forever to order. But maybe you could implement something in the chatbot where it feels like a game to order, and have cool graphics or whatever, and or allow add-ons where other people can do that for their restaurants or whatever, and just a whole ton
Yeah.
of different ways we can add little pieces of tech to improve the experience.
Yeah, exactly. I think what we're really trying to do is just like how do we make the experience of sitting down, eating at a restaurant, not this not this kind of laborious, tedious task, and also make it I guess outside of talking to your friends, like just pleasant. So like it's all around pleasant. So um I think that's kind of like what you said. It's kind of hitting on the spot. Because I think what we're also trying to do is like because we have so much information around your order history and past orders. I think we're also able to show you specific menu items that we think or the algorithm thinks might be interesting for you. And then that goes into a whole realm of possibility for kind of just how optimized this menu or this set of words can be. Because a menu can have 20 items, but me as a vegetarian that doesn't eat nuts can only look at 3 of them. And so that other real estate on the menu, so to speak, could be used for various other factors that can really enhance my experience.
And
Yeah.
yeah, all of this like is sounding really interesting because I think sort of once you move a piece of something from just existing sort of manually to a tech version, you suddenly all this other stuff opens up where you can link it to advertisements and not advertisements in the ad, but like the same idea where people would change the copy, like design descriptions of meals where it's targeted towards you and towards your experience to make you more likely to purchase that particular item and get their attention better. And all this other sort of personalization is
Yeah.
possible because of the tech that isn't possible with traditional waiters.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's kind of the goal is like, obviously, a chat bot is never gonna serve you or is never gonna, place food and give you that treatment that a waiter would. But there's so many things from just comfort, safety, all the way to taking care of the little details. Maybe I ordered, water with ice and they didn't put ice in it, or maybe the vice versa. And I mean, it's a very minute, small thing, but it still makes a big difference.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so you said you got this idea from your brother, right? And his eating needs. What was it like, like after you had the idea, what was it like assembling the team and actually creating this product? What was that process like?
Yeah, I think I think it was like surprisingly, or I think the one thing I learned, which was pretty weird, was that for smaller ideas that I've had compared to this, it was harder to find people that were interested in joining. And for kind of a grander vision, so to speak, like this one, um, I had quite a bit of people that were actually interested. So I think it was weird how the harder you make the concept, the easier it is to get people on board, which shouldn't really be the case. Like if it's an easier idea, obviously you want people that can do that. So, but I kind of understand the idea of having a purpose of a greater vision and being a part of that and all that. Um, so I think it was like it wasn't like too bad to get developers on and kind of start developing this thing. I think we have right now gotten a couple restaurants, and so right now I'm in the Bay Area, so we have a couple restaurants in the Bay Area, and then we should be releasing our first version in about a month, 3 weeks to a month or so. So um, like yeah, I mean I think it was a great and easy process, at least to start off with, because of the fact that I've gone through previous rounds of this, with building, iterating, team management, like other stuff like that. And so I think a lot of the mistakes I've made in the past were just ones that I could bring in here.
When you talk about like getting people on the team, like what are you doing? Are you like reaching out to people on LinkedIn? Are you reaching out to friends? Like how do you find people?
Yeah, well, one thing is I've like over the years built up somewhat of an extensive network that I have, so I can tap into that and ask them and get their take. Some of them are interested, some of them have friends who are interested, and then a friend to a friend to a friend kind of goes into that. Um, the other thing is, I think like LinkedIn is huge. So for example, like, I can share about some progress that I'm making just on my own, and then somebody's like, I really like the concept. Can I join in too? And yeah, why not? Um, so I think there are like different channels and outlets. I think the one thing is like just don't force it to happen. I think I've done that and I've failed like miserably in the past where you just like spam message everybody asking them if they can please join, and it almost feels like you're begging them. Um, and I think that like usually leads to negative outcomes. I think it's more just has to kind of be natural. And I think just like constantly go and network and talk to people and find people and I mean I think even one more advice on this is just like talk to people that are opposite of who you are. So like I mean I think I'm like somewhat in the business tech world, but I think I'm like I think I don't have enough information into tech as much as other people do, and so talking to people that are AI specialists, so talking to people that are interested in developing AI, or talking to people that have already used NLP for different applications in the past. Um, Even if it's not for this concept specifically, just talking to them, understanding who they are, what they do, like kind of what projects they've done, taking a vested interest. I think it's always great to have that. And so because you can always theoretically say, I can do my part, but then I need somebody else to do their part.
Is that primarily what you're looking for when trying to acquire team members? It's a different skill set or perspective than you, or is there other stuff you're also looking for?
Um, yeah, I think it's mainly kind of like the complementary skill sets. I think that's like one of the biggest things is like, I think I'm somewhat a think bigger kind of visionary type person. So obviously I think it's important to have both that as well as somebody that's kind of on the ground day to day, thinking realistically, like, like, okay, yeah, that's great, but let's set that aside and let's work on this right now. Like this is the priority number one. Um, so I think, yeah, I think complementary skill sets are great. And I think overall you you just want somebody that, you can like work really well with, and you have an expectation of how hard you want to work with them. Um, like for example, I've spoken to a lot of people and they say I'm kind of crazy for this, but generally like I think for me like I mean unless it's like a vacation or something, I think like for me like I can't not work for more than like 10 to 12 hours a day. Like if I do anything less, it's just like a waste. And so I think getting somebody on board the team that maybe is going to put in like an hour a day is just obviously outside of just the work going to lead to like communication issues. It just not going to be a great fit. And so I think that you also want to get people that have a similar pace and structure to you, because I know that not everybody can work, that much, and some people work even more than that. So I think it's like finding the right balance between the two.
And what would you say in all your ventures are some of like the biggest challenges and lessons you've picked up as an entrepreneur?
Um, Biggest challenges, um, I would say, from the people side, I think the first one is just, I mean, the biggest one I think is just that people put a lot of emphasis when trying to get a team together for a startup on people's resumes and LinkedIn's. And I think you just have to talk to the person and you really just have to understand them. And you could even, bring them on for an internship and see if they last and then keep going. But I think there's just this heavy emphasis that, somebody has this padded resume, an amazing LinkedIn, and then, they show up, they start working, and a month later you're like, what happened? Like you seem like this amazing person and like nothing's getting done. Like, what's going on? Um, and I think that's happened, at least to me, more times than I can even count, and it still happens. So I think it's still something that to constantly work on. So I'd say like just really understand the person. Don't just go based off of just okay, but their resume said that. So I think that's the first thing. And then from I think a technical standpoint, I would say just I'd say constantly think about how you can be useful. Like I think it's very, or I think it's very easy, at least in a startup, to just be like, okay, like, I've finished learning. It's time to just like, oh, like I've done my part, like time to wait for the other person to do their part. But I think it should be more sort of this race to see how fast you can get the next goal out in time. So it's like, okay, like is the timeline to get the next whatever out in 2 weeks? Okay, let's make it a week. Is it 1 week? Okay, let's make it a few days. So I think it's never like, okay, I'm done with my part. Like, let's sit around and wait for the next person to finish his part. It's like, okay, how can I learn what he's doing so that I can help him in his part? And I don't think that's the case for when you're a big company, because obviously everybody has a role, everybody has a part. But I think the ability to fit multiple hats and constantly learn and and I think just to embrace that learning is really big. Not from the standpoint of just the work, but also just providing empathy to the other person. Like I think once I started learning to code, um, giving deliverables to people and giving timelines was a completely different thing in my head, as opposed to before when I was just all business and didn't know really anything about coding.
So you've been a part of multiple startups at this point, 3 or 4, right? And you've run into problems obviously along the way. Has there been like a problem that's persisted throughout all 3 or 4 of these ventures? Like a problem
Um,
that you've ran into?
yeah, a problem I've run into is finding really, really, really good developers that will work insanely hard. Um, I think it is the single biggest problem I've ever faced. Um, because you can find good developers, because the issue with the startup is that yeah, you can find really good developers, but then and they know what they're doing, but then they all have job offers at big tech companies. Or you can find, the developers that say they know what they're doing, but in reality, you give them a piece of code and they actually don't know what they're doing at all. And then, they're immediately ready to jump on your idea. But then you don't want them because you know that they're not going to do anything. And then the third category is you have the ones that don't know how to code but are eager to learn and want to get in and make it and everything. Um, but unless they're willing to put in like that 10, 12, 14 hours a day just to understand and learn, I think it's going to take them at least a year. And so, you can say, yeah, like, okay, come back in a year, and then we can talk. But I think when a startup is going so early and so fast, that you really need somebody that understands and can just jump in and start working. And I think it's very difficult I mean, you can obviously provide a learning moment and everything, but I think it's very difficult because there's also needs to be some level of, okay, let's push the ball forward to some degree. Uh, and I think that that is very, very difficult. Um, yeah.
What do you think is the best way to get around that hurdle?
Um, well, I think number one, if you don't know anything about engineering, like, and you're seriously trying to build an engineering product, um, like start learning. Um, I think I think because people say, oh, go network and talk to, engineering students. Well, you can't really talk to engineering students if you don't know what you're going to talk about. So I think first, like learn, understand how to talk to them and what to talk about. Because you can't just go in and be like, come join my startup, and they're like, okay, so what tech stack do you use? And you're like, tech stack? I don't know what that is. They're gonna be like, okay, bye. So I think really first understand even the basis, even if you can't code, just understand it. Make sure that you can have a conversation with somebody about software. Um, and then I think the second part, I think that alone does like wonders because it really like people really start taking you seriously. I guess, and they really are like, okay, like this guy actually knows what he's doing, and I want to come work for him. Um, and I think number two is just like constantly try and constantly try and learn from what they're saying. So, like, when I first started, this is an example, I guess. So when I first started, I was only doing front end, so I only used to use Flutter. And then I talked to somebody and he was like, so, what backend processing are you using? And I was like, we aren't using anything backend. And he's like, I really like MongoDB, but, Firebase is coming out too, and I want to use Firebase. And I think it's got a great potential. What do you think? And I didn't know what to say because I didn't know any of that stuff. So I was like, I don't really know. I don't really know what I said, but like the first thing I did when I came back was searched up what MongoDB was and what Firebase was, and watched YouTube tutorials and learned everything I could about both of those. And so I think just constantly like learn, even if it's not something that you think is going to help, just keep learning.
How do you balance that with actually like making progress on the products? Because you can spend time learning stuff that may not be useful but might help you down the road, and then you can spend time building stuff that's actually, or talking to people that will actually lead to stuff for the business. Do you just manage that by working more hours than everyone else where you can do both, or is there some method to prioritize those?
Yeah, I think the working more hours is definitely the way I think I go. Like anybody that says that, you know, or I think that like the whole like work-life balance thing, and I know this is gonna like piss off a lot of people, but the whole work-life balance thing is like okay, come on, stop, please. Like um like I don't know anybody. I mean, down the line, like you can name me a founder. I don't know any founder that is genuinely super successful right now and has a great startup and has never in their life had to work insanely difficultly hard. Like, I think that, I mean, maybe right now they don't because they're in a position where they don't need to. But I don't know a single person that was like, let me work 10 hours a day and now they're the Amazon of the world or they're the Tesla of the world or the Netflix of the world. Like, I think, and it's funny because it's like, and they don't mention anything about work-life balance ever. And the ones who do, like, you barely know their name. So I think it's just like, there's no two ways around it. Like it's gonna be painful. It's gonna be really hard. Like I think at least for me, like starting a startup is like it's not something that you do because it's fun and exciting and whatever. It's like there genuinely has to be some purpose and like you're like, I need to do this and the world needs this, or else like, something could go wrong or something can become a problem. Um, because I think at one point, if you're going purely based on, you know, it sounds fun and my friend's doing it, so let me do it and it's cool and it's hip and I saw it in a movie or something. Um, I think at some point you're gonna burn out so bad, you're gonna be like, like I don't like startups anymore.
Okay, so like when you talk about like smaller founders, like not knowing their name, stuff like that, like do you want people to know your name? Like in the end, like do you want to become the next Elon Musk of the world? Like what does success look like for you? Like what's the end goal?
Yeah, I mean, I think about this a lot because I think that there's also a lot of downsides to becoming somebody that is like somebody that everybody knows, I guess. Um, I think what I meant earlier was that it's not even just the person that you don't know, but it's also like the companies that are rather smaller. Um, like I mean, you maybe they're not in the limelight and they don't have to be super popular, but they have a successful company because they've worked super hard. Um, but I think that I would want to have a successful venture, ideally without being insanely famous and where everybody knows my name. Because I would want to go on like walks in the evening or runs or to the grocery store. And I don't think any of those famous people can do that. And I think about that a lot where, fame is cool and great and whatever, like people know you can recognize you. But I think like that's probably in my eyes like the 1% of your life. And the 99% you're like, I just want to be left alone and just do my thing. But you can't. And so I think I would say like if I could, I guess have the best of both worlds and kind of be successful but also not be super famous. Um, famous to my friends, I guess. Yeah, that's kind of what I'd say.
I like that. I guess we could move on to the rapid fire round now.
Sure. First question is, and both all these like try to answer them as fast as possible. Less than 30 seconds is our recommendation, but we just want to get your pure, unfiltered thoughts on each of these. First,
Yeah.
first question is, how much sleep do you get?
I get about 6.5 hours. I get about 6.5, but I probably should be getting like 7.5.
Honestly, that's more than I thought you were getting, so that's good. What's your favorite book and why?
The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. I think that's great because it's made this shift in how startups actually operate from the early days to now. And it's my first book that I read also when I first started in the world of startups, and I think it was great as a foundation.
Awesome. You start your career over tomorrow with nothing. What's the first thing that you do?
Um, I Well, I think the two things I do is I would get a physics degree because I think there's a ton of potential in that, and that's the one regret that I have in college is that I didn't get a physics degree. And then just network like there's no tomorrow.
Are you saying that because that's the degree that Elon thinks is the most useful?
No, not necessarily. I think there are just like so many aspects. Like there's so many things that I've even thought about that could be potential ventures. But then I end up doing research, and then I see that somebody who's a physicist has said that that's physically impossible or theory. And so I'm like, why
Yeah.
couldn't I have just done the calculation and thought that in my head instead of having to rely on this person?
Okay.
Yeah.
Next question. What's most important to you in life?
I'd say there too, they're equally important. I'd say family and health. I think you really can't have anything to any success degree without both of those. And they're kind of the backbone of who you are at any point in time. Um, and I think to different people, family means different things, but I think those two are pretty important to me.
Awesome. Yeah, if you could change anything about the world, what would it be and why?
Um, if I could change. Okay, actually, I've thought about this quite a bit. If I could change one thing, well, it's not about the world, but it's more about, I guess, the United States. I think I would change the aspect of having the two-term presidency. The reason why I say that is because I think that for a lot of people who I've talked to, they say they don't want to run into politics because the fact that even if they are making positive change and really helping the country and making it something great, that they know that there's going to be an end date, and so they're like, what's the point? It's like a founder that is going to get kicked out eventually. So he's like, what's the point of even trying?
Interesting.
When in reality, he could be working so hard and making his company something.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a pessimistic way of thinking about it.
Yeah, if you think about it from a founder's standpoint, it's like the same
Yeah.
thing. It's like, then in that case, it's like, I think a lot of founders wouldn't be founders if they knew that in 2 years or 4 years, it's like they're done, regardless of how good their work is. I think that there should be I think there should be democracy and everything. I don't think that it should just be like current, you just keep running it again and again. But I think it's like, if the people want you and you're doing really good for society and the world, why not?
Yeah. Interesting point. I never thought about that. And then last question here. How do you want to be remembered?
Um, I think as somebody that I think as somebody that is just trying to do anything that could be useful for people in the world, to whatever the degree that is. Like I don't think that needs to be some super grand thing. Like I'm not trying to like, like I'm not trying to be like Elon and like change the world or whatever. But I think just like how can I just be useful to the other people that I'm living with in the society?
Well, I think that's a great place to leave off. Thank you so much, Rahul, for joining us.
Yeah.
Uh, our episodes once again come out Tuesday at noon, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And we'll see you on Tuesday. Don't be late.